All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Remember to hit that like button, share button, comment button if you don't mind. If you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure and hit the subscription button, and click that bell right next to it so you can keep up when we go live, including Caskey's Clicker that will run the extended cut today. A lot of recruits in Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. Almost a who's who was there. Billy Embody from On3, one of the best to cover recruiting. Make sure you're following Bill online and on Twitter to keep up with all of the latest of what's coming out from On3. You can catch him here as well. He's on Twitter at Billy Embody. Bill, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
Doing good. All right, take me to Saturday night, man. I was watching. I believe it was Taviano's or Desmond Rick's Twitter of them watching the final play on Saturday night where Mason Taylor catches the 2-point conversion and they start rushing the field. And it is as if their favorite team had won the game. I mean, it is, you can clearly see the allegiance to LSU. Now, look, they were all there officially, unofficially. What was the biggest takeaway from Saturday night?
Yeah, you've got a bunch of things to unpack on this one. First of all, it was Javian Toviano that rushed the field with his family. Well, actually left his family in the dust. He's the 4-star defensive back out of Texas, goes to Arlington Martin High School. He's one of the prospects that has really kept his recruitment under wraps. He is not named a leader. He's not given anyone silent commits. And all he has maintained is that he feels like he knows where he wants to go and has for quite some time. If you look at his actions, he's been at LSU a ton. He's taken in multiple games. He was here for Bayou Splash. He even showed up to a Texas A&M game wearing an LSU hat.
Wow.
When they played Arkansas at Jerry World. And all the buzz has been around LSU. And it makes sense because of his actions. But now he is finally set to go check out Texas again. He was there in the spring. Now set to make his return, and that's been a school that a lot of people have been talking about. Javian Toviano is probably the biggest prospect as far as current buzz around LSU that people are talking about. But on the same side of it, you see that emotion out of him, and you can tell he loves being around LSU, but will he end up there? We'll have to see. He's played his cards super close to the vest, and he's somebody who wants to take it to the early signing period and announce his decision then. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. So Javian Toviano is there. Desmond Ricks, the 5-star corner who just reclassified, was there. I think it's safe to say with the relationships Desmond Ricks has at LSU that they sit at the top for him. But there are official visits to come. LSU will host him last. Alabama will host him for the Iron Bowl. And Florida will host him on that SEC championship game weekend, since the Gators have nothing to do that weekend. Desmond Ricks is somebody that LSU has done a really good job recruiting, and the entire staff from Robert Steeples, Jordan Arcimo, Brian Kelly, they've made him and Javian Toviano two of their biggest priorities down the stretch. And look, you've got to give them credit for putting them in position. It's going to be interesting to see how both of these guys close, because Javian keeps things so close to the vest. And on the flip side, I think Desmond Ricks is the recruitment that, NIL is really going to factor in a big way. So those are two prospects that were back on campus and are guys that are at the top of the wish list for LSU. Then you got to go down the list, and 4-star wide receiver Aiden Williams out of Mississippi. He's an Ole Miss commit. He was back on campus. He was here over the summer. And from telling you guys this, I saw him at Under Armour Future 50. I think he looks like a George Pickens type of player. Ooh. He's physically ready to go, could factor in right away. And LSU's kind of chipping away there. They're trying to get him back for an official visit. It's tough to pull kids out of Mississippi, but Cortez Hankton's done a really good job there recruiting him. And then finally, Bo Hughley out of Georgia. He goes to Langston Hughes, where JoJo Stone just moved to and transferred high school. So he's a 2024 LSU commit that is now in his year. He popped up on campus. He's been committed to Georgia for a long, long time. There was some buzz that Auburn might be able to flip him. Obviously, the coaching staff change, that is done. The Bulldogs still sit in a good spot to keep him, but LSU had just gone and seen him with Brad Davis in Georgia during the bye week, and then he shows up at LSU. Sounds like he's going to at least give them a listen, and it wouldn't shock me if he came back for an official visit. So those are a few that really stood out to me. And on top of that, you had a huge crop of 2024 and 2025 prospects on campus, and you also have had a run of commitments lately with Colin Hurley, DJ Chester, Dylan Carpenter jumping on board here as of late. So it's been a red hot run for LSU on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, take me back to some of these commitments, including DJ Chester. Let's start there, the offensive lineman. That was a pretty fierce recruiting battle that I know was hot and heavy over the last couple of months. How did LSU close so strong?
I think Brad Davis and J.R. Belton just did a great job with him overall. Brian Kelly. It's funny, I went and saw DJ Chester and Brad Davis happened to be there, but the fight song for DJ's high school is actually the Notre Dame fight song. So I thought it was kind of a coincidence that, a former Notre Dame coach is now recruiting him to LSU and obviously knows that fight song well. Brad Davis identified DJ Chester very early on, all the way back in January. He was one of the first offers they dished out in 2023 out of state. And they really prioritized him and his family. He visited multiple times between the spring, summer. He was there for Bayou Splash. That's when I was told he committed to LSU. But he wanted to take his visits. He's a kid that, I think is really well thought out in everything he does. And he always maintained with LSU that he was going to commit to them, and he was going to commit to them at the All-American Bowl in January. After taking visits almost every weekend this fall, whether it be South Carolina, Auburn, Florida State a couple times. He went to Michigan right before he dropped his decision date. I think he finally said, you know what, I've taken enough visits. It's time to go public and jump on board with the Tigers. So great win for LSU. He's somebody who can play the interior between center, guard. He's a big pickup for Brad Davis and an excellent just young man overall. People around that program just raved about him nonstop when I was there in just outside Atlanta.
Colin Hurley is a quarterback out of Florida. He has been reclassified as well and spent the weekend in Baton Rouge. What type of player did the Tigers pick up?
Yeah, Colin Hurley has one of the best arms, that I've seen in terms of just arm talent. Yeah, when he's on and he's consistent in his throwing motion and things like that, that ball jumps off his hand. And you see that on tape. We saw that this summer at the LSU elite camp that he came to and worked out for Joe Sloan. He plays for one of the best high schools in the state of Florida. He's already won 2 state championships. He's somebody that I think extends plays well. And when his processing as he gets older catches up with that arm, it has the potential to be really special. Because you look at him right now, and he's 15 years old. So not only is he now young for his grade as a junior, he's just got so much developing to do. He's already played a lot of football. He's won a lot of football games. He's somebody that can kind of lead this class and really bring guys together in the class of 2024. He's just got that type of personality. You see him on Twitter. If you're on there following people, messaging them, tweeting back at them, he's got graphics. He's got everything ready to go. To let people know about LSU. He did some trolling even, I think, of Stephen A. Smith after the LSU-Alabama game. So just a terrific young man who's trained his whole life, quite honestly, to be a quarterback at the highest level. And Joe Sloan had kind of been working on this behind the scenes for a while as he recruited Julian Sayin and DJ Lagway in the class of 2024. And when when it was kind of apparent that Julian and DJ were probably going elsewhere, he said, let's go. Let's do this. Let's get this going. And sure enough, they did. And it's a big recruiting land for LSU right out of the state of Florida. The Gators wanted him, and it's a big, big win.
Dylan Carpenter is a edge rusher out of Sanamon right here locally in South Louisiana. What type of player did they pick up?
One who has a lot of length, a lot of really good measurables. The LSU staff thinks he's going to be able to pack on weight. He plays as such a high motor. He's disruptive. We went out and saw him on Friday when he played Live Oak just before he got the offer, and he was just terrific. So LSU's getting a really, really, I think, disruptive player who has the potential to move either to the strong side on the defensive end or maybe as like a pass rushing interior defensive lineman on passing downs. And I think identifying guys like this is really important. And Brian Kelly talked about it even at SEC Media Days, that they need to do a better job looking at the entire state. And when you look at Santa Monica, I mean, they haven't really sent – we had this discussion on the BengalTiger.com. Who was the last Santa Monica player to sign a scholarship with LSU? It just hasn't happened. So they're literally going through all their evals and checking their boxes. And Dylan Carpenter was one that they said, you know what? He's had a great senior year. He camped for us. He had really good measurables. We like what we see. Let's offer. Let's flip him from the Raging Cajuns, who, quite honestly, have done a really good job evaluating the state as well.
Yeah. Anthony Hill Jr. is the number 2 linebacker in the class and was a commit to Texas A&M. There are a lot of people in our chat curious about what you know about Hill, and now with him decommitting, if he is on LSU's board.
Look, I think, one, he should be on LSU's board. I mean, he's one of the best linebackers in the country. I will say this. I think Texas probably holds the edge here right off the bat. He's going straight to Austin for the TCU game this weekend. And from watching social media and kind of watching how this unfolded, it almost sounds like this has been a backdoor opportunity for Texas for quite some time. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. I will also add that Miami was heavily in the mix in this one, and they did a really good job making it very difficult on him to go to Texas A&M. So that's worth watching on all those fronts. I think Texas has the buzz right now. I don't think LSU is going to be able to get into the mix this late. They might. Who knows if he wants to enjoy the process that much, but a lot of signs right now are pointing to Texas being able to go ahead and get him on board relatively quickly.
Billy, outside of recruiting, your experience of Saturday night, what did that mean for the program? Brian Kelly, year 1, what did you make of that win?
I think just the way it unfolded, and especially going for 2, was just so huge. That's trust in your players to go ahead and just get this done. And instead of going back and forth, maybe in an overtime, you know what? If it's going to come down to 2-point conversions, let's just go for it. At the end of the day, that's you run only so many plays in overtime or for overtime in practice or 2-point conversions, and they knew they had one drawn up that they liked their chances on. And I mean, Mason Taylor made a great play. Jaden Daniels put it on him, and that was just, I think, so important for, as Brian Kelly's talked about the process of getting this program ready. And going from the loss to Florida State, the loss to Tennessee, and just talking about how they wanted to go through the process of getting this program to a point where it can play for championships and beat Alabama and get back to the standard that is LSU, I think rewarding the players for buying in and saying, you know what, we're going to go for 2 because I trust you guys. We run, that play enough, feel good about it. Let's go out and win this game. I think the players can really feed off that. They've got to obviously refocus for Arkansas this week. But that type of trust in just, 10 months to go out there and execute when they had so many changes from staff to players and all those things over the course of the offseason, I think says a lot about Brian Kelly and just his ability to push the right buttons, his ability to understand what his team might need. You saw John Emery was the first person to hug him, and maybe Kayshawn and other guys here and there. John Emery was one of the guys that they really needed to buy in and to accept the change in culture and lead that change in culture. And I thought that moment kind of encapsulated that very, very well. You had one of the players, high-profile Louisiana recruit in the past, hasn't panned out that much here, but the first guy to hug him and kind of go right face-to-face with Brian Kelly was John Emery. And I think that decision to go for 2 really will pay off for him, not only just in the win, but just that trust in that locker room that Brian Kelly's been trying to build with the players. This is just another step in that direction. Obviously, the buzz around the program is just incredible right now. Look, they win out, and they're going to be in the college football playoff. I mean, you just don't keep the SEC champion out. And looking ahead at the schedule, you got to like it, at least until Atlanta. Obviously, you'll have a tough test there with the Bulldogs, but they've just got to stay on the path. And Brian Kelly even mentioned, the take it play by play, and that was kind of the mantra of beating Alabama. And they beat Alabama in that respect at their own game. Nick Saban even said it. We haven't been focused on the process of winning. We've been focused on winning. LSU was much more focused on the process on Saturday night, and what an insane night.
One more in recruiting, Billy, before I get you out of here. The myth of Trey Green out in Clinton, Louisiana, and East Feliciana is starting to grow and feeling like a Kendall Beckwith type prospect of the steam that he is picking up. Where does LSU sit with the big pass-catching tight end out of Clinton, Louisiana?
Yeah, LSU sits in a really good spot for him from what we've gathered. LSU has always recruited him really hard. He's a two-sport athlete, football, basketball. He can try his hand at both at LSU if he does, in fact, end up there. And right now, LSU has all the buzz. And for a guy that doesn't like talking recruiting much, doesn't really give it much, time in terms of, talking with folks like me or others out there, you're starting to really track the actions and say, okay, all right, he doesn't talk about it much. He doesn't really get out there and do a lot of things, but LSU just sits in a really, really good spot. So he is, the frame on him, it just suggests that if he's not a tight end and a difference maker in that respect, don't count him out for offensive tackle, honestly. If they pack some weight on him, he's all of 6'6", almost 6'7". He's got a chance to be pretty athletic on the offensive line. And that's not to say LSU is recruiting him there right now, but just my take watching him move around. He's got to become more comfortable as a tight end and catching the football. He's been playing two sports and not necessarily specializing. So when he gets more and more time to develop and grow into his body and things like that, he's got a chance to be a really good one for LSU if that's in fact where he ends up. But all the buzz around LSU right now for Trey Green for sure.
Basketball season on the horizon. Where is the calendar at right now for Matt McMahon and the recruiting staff?
Yeah, the early signing period is getting underway here, and LSU just landed a really nice commit in Mike Matthews out of the Baltimore area. So once again, we look back to Brandon Murray, Baltimore being good to LSU. And I think this is one where this is a really good job of Matt McMahon and his staff identifying Mike Matthews early on and continuing to recruit him because, he's somebody that just jumped up into the top 150 prospects for On3 after kind of being on the outside looking in. He made that move up, and he just committed this weekend on Sunday. Really like his size. And you look at what Team Thrill, which is the AAU program he went to, and then Bishop Walsh, all those coaches there just rave about him. They really have taken to Twitter to almost say, wow, this is a monumental moment for our program. And these are programs that have had D1 guys. So you look at Mike Matthews getting out there and opting to go ahead and commit to LSU. It sounds like a really, really big commitment for them. Wednesday is the start of the early signing period, and we'll be tracking to see if Corey Chess does, in fact, ink with the Tigers. We expect him to. Same with Mike Matthews. And then, the one that'll kind of go into the spring, it seems like, is A.J. Johnson, the five-star point guard out of California. He took an official visit to LSU and Texas, wants to visit USC, Louisville, NC State. But those dates have been kind of put on hold. Arizona State has some buzz. We'll see. That one goes to the spring. And look, if they can kind of finish with Chest and Matthews and then add A.J. Johnson late, that would be huge. So early signing period starts tomorrow, and LSU has two commits with Mike Matthews and Corey Chest, and we'll see what the spring brings for the Tigers. They don't have many spots, actually.
Yeah. Billy Embody from On3Sports. He's a writer over there. He covers LSU on Bengal Tiger on 3. You can read it all on on3sports.com, doing great work on recruiting and keeping you up to date on both basketball, football, and everything around the program. Thank you as always, Bill. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, there he is, Billy Embody checking in. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Billy Embody, and don't forget about our friends down in New Orleans, Louisiana, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. It is a classic when you talk about New Orleans cuisine. Been around since 1984. You can check out the menu online, but the menu, man, they've got something for everyone. Whether it is the swamp fries as an appetizer, the eggplant that you can pick up, or some of your New Orleans favorites down there at Katie's Restaurant. Been around since 1984 in Mid-City. Easiest way to learn about them if you're down here in Baton Rouge and you're making the trek to and from the city is just to log online. katiesinmidcity.com. katiesinmidcity.com is the website. They have very easy to get in and out of. You got catering service that you can find out more about and hit them online. They're located at 3701 Iberville Street, right in the heart of Old New Orleans. Katie's Restaurant, Katie's in Mid-City, katiesinmidcity.com. Been around since 1984. Proud supporter here. The show will be back with the second hour, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.